Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you to the evening edition of The Goldie Show, where we pick one of the videos or documentaries that one of our channel members has chosen, and we watch it together. And then, of course, I provide my critiques and commentaries as well as those in the chat. Big shout out to our paid members, our subscribers, and also all of our mods. Thank you for being here. What time is it in Canada? It's 9 p.m. right now in Canada, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So there you go. This evening's documentary, or show, whatever you want to call it, was suggested by the Major. So thank you, Major, for that. It is something called Why We Are Afraid, a 1400-year secret by Dr. Bill Warner. This is a video that was published in December of 2012, so pretty much like 13 years ago, this video was published, and it only has 971 views, which I find really interesting, but I guess it didn't make it into the algorithm. Um, but I'm very interested in watching this video, and I want to thank the Major for recommending this because there's a lot of information out there, and if you don't know what to search for, you won't be able to find it or to learn about it. So I find it fascinating that there's actually something called the Center for the Study of Political Islam, which of course is, very relevant and pertinent to my channel and the things that I speak about, because I'm of course raising awareness about Islamic terrorism and jihad, and of course that ties into political Islam. So without further ado, let's get started, and I look forward to your comments, your feedback, and of course, I'll be providing my commentary as well.
As I told you on 9/11, I suddenly realized it was my task to make difficult books readable, which is what I've done on the back table. I sometimes describe myself as a man who reads big, thick, old books and writes modern, small books that anyone can understand. And actually, I rather enjoy it. I don't surf the web. People are disappointed when they run into me sometime and some other counter-jihadist, they go, "Have you seen my website?" No. I don't even go to my own website. I have very little interest in the web except for Craigslist and Yahoo headlines and Drudge. That's it. So I like reading big, thick, old books. I really do. But I thought when I got my books written, in which the Quran was easy to understand, here's Muhammad, easy to understand, all these books on Sharia and everything were easy to understand, I thought, we win. No, we don't even have game. Because what I discovered was, other than a minority view, and trust me, you are so minor, everyone else's reaction to the knowledge, to the answer to question, what is the true nature of Islam, react in fear, hatred, and anger. When I try to explain to people something about Islam, they're terrified. So I thought people would run when I got my books published, and indeed they did run away from me. So I thought there was just one great question: what is the true nature of Islam? But I found there was a second question more important. Why are we afraid to know Islam? Now, remember I told you about stories? Here's the thing. My books are fact.
Just wanted to pause, give a shout out to Alex. Thank you for becoming the newest member on my channel. Just to let you know, I'm actually starting members only content and live streams. So welcome to Goldie's Gang. That's what we're decided to call channel members. And make sure you check the members only message board, because I will be posting updates there. And I plan on doing members only live streams after my regular show at 12 noon Eastern. So yeah, I look forward to having you join the conversation, and welcome, and thank you for your support.
actual. They work here. But in dealing with human beings, if you're going to make a sale, any salesman will tell you this, the facts are secondary to the feelings. And where you get feelings is from stories, amongst other places. And I began to think about, why is everyone so afraid even though they don't know anything? Well, it turns out they do know little figments of stories about Islam that involve violence. And the knowledge that they were into the slave trade does not come as a shock, really. So, remember I told you that the house of Sufism was like a palace with a smell coming up from the basement? Everyone smelled that smell. They just don't want to talk about it. But it's somewhere deep in the back, almost primordial mind. So, the problem is we don't know the history of Islam. We don't know the answer to this question. This is the world of Islam. How did it happen? You can ask very intelligent people, and they will not be able to give you the answer to this.
The answer is very easy, actually. The reason that they were able to expand so quickly is through the sword, and they basically were violent colonizers, and they basically colonized their way into all the green areas that you see, going so far as India and the Maldives and many other places as well. And he's absolutely right. A lot of people don't talk about Islamic colonization because a lot of the modern day Islamist groups have made it so that anyone who speaks about the violence in Islamic history is accused of Islamophobia, even though the rest of us were literally just sharing objective historical facts, right? Like when we speak about the transatlantic slave trade, or when we speak about British colonization, no one accuses me of Christian phobia or anything like that, because we're just having a conversation about undisputed historical facts. And yet, when we try to have a conversation about the Arab Muslim slave trade, or when we try to have conversations about how Islam expanded, we're all of a sudden accused of Islamophobia. And that double standard is incredibly prevalent, especially today.
Be able to give you the answer to this question. How did North Africa go from being European and Christian to becoming Arab and Muslim? How did that happen? And is that an important question? How did the Middle East go from being Christian to Muslim? And is that an important question? I think it's an overwhelmingly important question. All right. Now, to understand how that Islamic world came about, we're going to have to go about and see how Islam entered our world. Now, to do that, Islam entered the world of the Byzantine Empire. We know that in the Sirah, Muhammad's life, his last days were spent killing Christians and subjugating them. After he died, that process continued. So, let's describe the world that Islam invaded. Now, we're told that the Roman Empire collapsed when the German barbarians invaded Rome. You all heard that story? Well, that's false. That is not true. It is wrong. What happened was, after the German barbarian tribes invaded Rome, they set up their own version of the Roman Empire. They retained classical culture. They spoke Roman. They hired Roman philosophers and Roman attorneys to teach their children and to run their schools. They came into the Roman Empire not to destroy the empire, but just to get the goods for themselves. The eastern part of the empire, so-called Byzantine Empire, is over here. Now, this is after the German invasion. The important point is this: there was still a classical empire. It's not collapsed. Then, after the fall of Rome, the Byzantines gradually exerted their political influence till now this was the new form of the Roman Empire. This is the Byzantine Empire, and it is about to be invaded. This is the classical world that Islam invaded. Notice that the classical world is still up and running. It's critical to remember that. It was now weak, but it was still up and running. We're going to see what caused its collapse. Here we see in 25 years, 3 stages of development of the spread of Islam. This is 25 years' work. How is it that the Arabs were able to do to the Byzantine Empire what the Persians could not do in Iran? Here's the answer to that question. It has to do with Iran, actually. The Greeks and the Persians had been having wars since forever.
Guys, pay attention to this part because this part right now is critical. He is about to explain how the Arab Muslim colonizers were able to invade Persia around 650 AD and basically take over the Persian Empire and force everyone to become Muslim. This is very, very important here, and it absolutely has to do with the 30-year war, between the Greeks and the Persians at the time.
All right. The 300 at Thermopylae, that was about the Persians. All right. Alexander the Great, he defeated the Persians. The Persians kept hammering on the Romans and then the Byzantines, and 25 years before Islam invaded, there was one massive last series of battles that left Persia weak and the Byzantine Empire very weak. Then comes along the Black Plague. 1 person in 3 dies. So the Byzantine Empire, when Islam invaded, had been weakened by a long war with Persia and the loss of 1/3 of its population. The economy had collapsed by 2/3. You think the Obama economy is bad? Try 2/3. So we had an empire that was weak, invaded by people with a mission. Now what's important here is these 3 different shades of green represent the different caliphs. This empire is beginning to build here came from people who could be described as the apostles of Muhammad. Why is it important to know that? They knew Muhammad.
So I just want to pause for a moment. So for people who are participating in the YouTube chat, just listen to, just look at what Eskimo is writing. The reason I haven't kicked this person out is because I hope that at least for the rest of you, you can understand how idiotic and ignorant some of these people are when they don't know anything about their history, and then they come in and they're like, they say like the most ridiculous things like Jesus was a Muslim, or there's no Islamic colony, all people converted freely to Islam. This is a nonsense that like the rest of us have to deal with these like low IQ, uneducated, inbred people like Eskimos. So there you go. Enjoy the comments, and I hope you guys all get a good laugh at the nonsense that he's writing there.
They held his hand. One of them, Ali, married his daughter. Abu Bakr was his father-in-law. These people are not just brothers in the religious sense, they're brothers in the family sense. They knew Muhammad like I know my wife. And what did they do? Did they go out preaching the Quran? No, they didn't. They picked up their swords, got on their camels and horses, and went out whacking Christians and Persians.
Yeah.
This is the true nature of Islam. Here you see it. This is the fruit on the tree. Massive destruction. Now notice something else that's happened here. Egypt is the breadbasket of the Mediterranean. Syria, the heart of the intellectual world of the classical empire. In 25 years, the classical civilization lost its ability to feed itself and lost its biggest brain trust. This destroys classical Christianity. Christianity that we have today is a bloody stump of the original Christianity. Why? This destroyed the heart of it, transformed it. The first stage of the annihilation of classical empire. gone. The heart of it's gone. Okay. A century later, notice over here in Spain, 750 AD, Spain is already Muslim.
If you guys watched my live stream from earlier today, we were speaking about that when we were watching Robert Spencer talk about the history of jihad. He also spoke about Spain and, Al-Andalus, which is what the Muslim invaders call it.
This is rapid fire conquest. This is going to become very important because this happened as it were in the life of a nation overnight. This brutal assault is the key as to why we fear Islam. Now then, you're next going to see history that you've not heard before. I'm not a historian, but I am a scientist. And I can reason from data. I knew, once I read the story of Muhammad, that I had been fed a pack of lies about what caused the Dark Ages. Roman barbarians didn't cause the Dark Ages. First off, why would these barbarians were Germans? These are the same people who made Germany. You're telling me they were too stupid to learn how to do Roman law and stuff? Of course not. They were very intelligent people. They didn't.
Why am I only hearing about Dr. Bill Warner like today? Major, why were you gatekeeping this amazing man from me? Like now I need to go and find more of his videos and watch them because this guy, he knows his stuff and he's not afraid to speak the truth, and I appreciate that very, very much. So thank you.
Caused the collapse.
Plus his bow tie, you can tell he's serious when he has a bow tie like that.
But that's the classical theory. If you go to Vanderbilt, that's what they'll teach you. Here we go with the data. There has recently been a lot of classical ancient works that have been translated and put into a database format so they can be accessed. There's been massive archaeological research under the ocean and at the edge of the Mediterranean. From this archaeological research, we're able to track history and economies. All right? That figure I gave you about how the economy collapsed, that came from the study of sunken vessels. Because if you're not buying much, if 1 in 10, let's say 1 in 10 ships is sunk, that figure's not that high, but whatever. If you see a lot of sunken ships, there was a lot of ships sailing around. When they go down, the economy goes down. So from this data, we know a lot. And this, in particular, the database of ancient documents, gives us 548 battles that Islam fought against the classical world. This is all new information. I've talked with people who consider themselves history buffs, and they go, well, let's see, battles of Islam against Europe. Let's see, we've got the invasion, we got Tours, we got the invasion of at Gibraltar, we've got Lepanto, Gates of Vienna, collapse of, okay, that's 5. You talk to a historian, and those are the 5 battles they can scratch up. And I remind you, you can have all of these slides if you just send me an email for it. Okay, what does this new data show us? It shows us this. See the white spots? They're brand new battles. They're going to change to red. These are new. Every time, I want to show you this all over again, every tick is 20 years. The new battles for that 20-year period come up in white, then they fade to red to show you the history. So white's what's happening right now, red has happened. Let's see how these 548 battles act out over. We're going to watch, in 70 seconds, we're going to watch 1,200 years of conquest. Look how fast this is happening. Bam! Here comes, you didn't know France was hammered that hard, did you? You heard of Tours. Watch what's happening in Spain and the islands. Now, many of these raids or battles, if they're at the coastline, are slave raids. The slaving that took place in here was extensive and went on and on. All of this work is also happening now then. We're now into the golden age of Baghdad. This is the punishment that's being handed out to Christians everywhere. In Spain, after one battle, there were knights' heads were cut off and they made a pile so high that a man on horseback couldn't see over them.
In our own history books, when Iranian historians are speaking about the Arab Muslim conquest of Persia, there's descriptions there that say the rivers in Iran were literally red with the blood of Iranian people. Like that's how many Iranians the Arab Muslim invaders killed when they were conquering Persia and forcing everyone to become Muslim. The rivers ran red with blood.
All of the European civilization in North Africa is now gone.
I have a question. Have you read the 13th Tribe?
No.
Okay.
Now, pretty soon, and by the way, there will be a period of time, and you can see the clock running up here, there will be a brief blip of 5 battles that occur in North Africa, the Barbary Pirate Wars. We're on there. Okay? Now then, Byzantium has fallen. Now then, Eastern Europe is being hammered. Notice that it is relentless. It doesn't stop. This is the history that you're never told about. This is the history that explains how all of this came about. Now then, they're getting slower because Islam is becoming weaker. Corruption. All empires collapse from the inside ultimately. Okay. I say that what caused the collapse of classical civilization was not the invading German barbarian tribes. I say that classical civilization was destroyed by Islam. Now comes the question, why do we not want to know that?
He said it, not me.
We're going to answer that question. All right, now I want to give you the headlines.
He's not wrong, though.
All those little dots, basically what I've showed you is just quantity. Okay? Relentless, but quantity. Now I'm going to give, we gave you 1,200 years of battles in like 70 seconds. Now we're going to go through in about 4 minutes. I'm going to give you the headlines from each century so you will know the emotional tone of what is happening. All right, 7th century. Muhammad sent Khalid out, the sword of Allah, to the Jazima tribe to offer Islam. They refused. He annihilated every one of them. At the Battle of Oasis in Iraq, for 2 days he spent out rounding up the losers, put them in a dry stream bed, and cut off heads until the stream ran with blood.
Did I not just say that earlier? I was speaking about how Persian historians spoke about how they killed so many people that the rivers ran red with blood. He literally just repeated what I said a few minutes earlier. This guy, he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff.
He then took the captain of the Zoroastrian Persian tribe. His wife was there. He cut off the man's head, let the blood drain into the soil, and raped his wife in the bloody soil. That was one of the companions of Muhammad. This is the nature of jihad. Where did...
Yep, 100% accurate. Yeah. But yet when we try to talk about it, when we Persians, Iranians try to talk about the Arab Muslim conquest of Persia, we're accused of hate crimes or being Islamophobic for literally talking about the fact that this is what they did. And so, all of the rape that you see happening today by these Islamists, that's because rape has always been a part of Islamic jihad. I mean, what you're seeing today is the exact same thing as what they did 1,400 years ago. The only difference is 1,400 years ago, people didn't have cameras, and so they couldn't film what they were doing, but today they can. And so, yeah, I mean, this is what's been going on for 1,400 years.
Khalid learn how to do that? From Muhammad. from
Let me
Muhammad
go back a
at the
little
Battle
bit
of
here.
Khaybar. Of Muhammad. The sword of Allah to the Jazima tribe to offer Islam. They refused. He annihilated every one of them. At the Battle of Oasis in Iraq, for 2 days he spent out rounding up the losers, put them in a dry stream bed, and cut off heads until the stream ran with blood. He then took the captain of the Zoroastrian Persian tribe. His wife was there. He cut off the man's head, let the blood drain into the soil, and raped his wife in the bloody soil. Yeah. That was one of the companions of Muhammad. This is the nature of jihad. Where did Khalid learn how to do that? From Muhammad. From Muhammad at the Battle of Khaybar. Umar conquered Jerusalem, and every Jew and every Christian became a dhimmi, which is a third-class semi-slave. You're now going to see, for the next few centuries, you're going to see Golden Age. We're told this myth of the Golden Age, how wonderful Islam is. So here's what's happening during the Golden Age. They started attacking Sind, which is the Hindus. 26,000 Hindus died. Armenian nobles were herded into a church after a debate, and the building burned down on top of them. At Ephesus, 7,000 Greeks are enslaved. We're still having the Golden Age. All new churches were ordered destroyed. At Amorium, there was massive enslavement of all the Christians. The Egyptian Christians revolt over the jizya, which is the dhimmi tax under the Sharia. Churches are burned, vineyards destroyed. 10th century was still in the Golden Age. In Thessalonica, 22,000 Christians enslaved. Christians massacred in Seville. In Egypt and Syria, 30,000 churches destroyed. You have your religion, I have mine. Still in the Golden Age, 6,000 Jews in Morocco killed, hundreds of Jews in Cordoba killed, 4,000 Jews in Granada killed, Georgia and Armenia invaded. In Hindustan, 15,000 killed, 500,000 enslaved. Golden Age, still upon us. In Yemen, the Jews are given the choice of convert or die. The Christians of Granada are deported to Morocco. And in India, cities are destroyed under the order convert or die. In one town, 20,000 Hindus became slaves. Still the Golden Age. 50,000 Hindu slaves decided to get freedom by converting to Islam. A new 20-year campaign created 400,000 new Muslims out of Hindus. Buddhist monks butchered, nuns raped. In Damascus and Safed, mass murder of Christians. Jews in Marrakesh massacred. Tabriz, forced conversion of Jews.
Tabriz is a city in Iran. And who the heck goes after Buddhist monks? Like, literally one of the most peaceful religions in the world. I mean, I would say the only religion that I can think of is more peaceful is the Baha'i religion, right? But I mean, who the heck goes after Buddhist monks? It's insane.
Still, we're in the Golden Age. There are riots in Cairo, churches are burned, Jews of Tabriz are forced to convert. Tamerlane, one of the most evil men who ever lived, massacred 90,000 Hindus in one day. 30,000 in another battle, massacred in cold blood. Another Muslim leader takes 180,000 Hindu slaves. Oops, we're out of the Golden Age. See if you notice any change in tenor. Tamerlane destroys 700 villages in India. Now then comes He then turned to Iraq and annihilated the Nestorian and Jacobite Christians. The Nestorian Christians, half of the Silk Route in China was Nestorian Christian. The Nestorian Christians had emissaries and missionaries in the court of China. Afghanistan was partly Christian. All right? Gone. This is part of the destruction of the church that no one knows about. 700 years of attack, they finally destroy Constantinople. 16th century, the son of Tamerlane destroys temples, forced conversions. Two of his generals built 2 towers of human heads. Once again, you couldn't see over them. And then noble women, Hindu women, started the practice of sati, which was mass suicide in order not to be sex slaves inside of the Sultan's harem. 17th century, Jews of Yemen and Persia forced to convert, forced conversions of Greeks. The Zoroastrians are persecuted in Persia, and over 500,000 killed Hindus. 18th century, more Zoroastrian persecution, Jews of Jeddah expelled, Jews of Morocco massacred, Hindu persecution continues. 19th century, more forced conversion of Jews, Jews of Baghdad massacred. Oops. 250,000 Armenian Christians slaughtered in Turkey. Now then, in Persia, the Zoroastrians are completely annihilated. 20th century, over 1 million Armenian Christians killed.
I mean, I wouldn't say the Zoroastrians were completely annihilated because there are still Zoroastrians, but the number of obviously decreased significantly. However, interesting to note, right now, currently in occupied Iran, less than 20% of Iranians identify as Muslim. The vast majority are pretty much atheist or agnostic. And in fact, the two fastest growing religions in Iran right now are Christianity and Zoroastrianism. Of course, it's all being done underground because the crime for leaving Islam is death, and the Islamic Republic does hang people for the crime of apostasy, and so the vast majority of Iranians just on paper they say they're Muslim just so that they're not executed, but like less than 20% of Iranians are actually practicing Muslims or even believe that. And yeah, Christianity and Zoroastrianism are both the two fastest growing religions in Iran right now.
1 million. So you now not only know the number of battles, you now see the tenor of what's going on. You now know quality and quantity. Do you get the drift on how bad this was? Now then, the establishment doctrine is that we've already told you classical collapse had nothing to do with Islam, and indeed Islam was a source of good because the hillbilly Europeans lost their classical learning and the shrewd, smart Arab Muslims preserved all the knowledge in the Golden Age. This is what is taught in our schools. I maintain that it was annihilated by Islam. Okay. We've been talking about land here. I now want to talk about water because classical civilization was based upon the Mediterranean Sea. Egypt was part of the Mediterranean world. It was not part of the African world, okay? Because to go from Alexandria, Egypt to Nigeria was a lifetime. But you could get on a ship and be there in 10 days. Does this make sense? It was cheap transportation. You could haul a ton of grain from Egypt to Rome as much as it cost 75 miles by ox cart. This is important. I'm going to be driving back on the interstate after I finish talking here. I do not expect to be attacked or shot at on the way. I presume that the interstate is safe travel. It used to be that way under the Roman peace. That ended. The importance of naval work, as many as 500 boats could be in the harbor of Constantinople. The collapse of the freedom of sea. Let me show you something. Now we know this from history, the data. Rome used to communicate with France by boat. After Islam, they went overland through the Alps. Why did they do that? There was no longer freedom of the sea. Here's interesting. The Black Plague was a known problem in the Mediterranean. It used to take 4 months to get from here to Constantinople because there was sea trade back and forth. Well, that was eliminated. So now then, when there was an outbreak of the Black Plague, it went from harbor to harbor, all around here, and it took 4 years to get to here. Do you see the point I'm making? There was that little freedom of trade. As a merchant striking out to do business, you could wind up with your ship gone, your goods gone, and you're in chains, enslaved. By the way, this cuts down a lot on commerce. A brag. The Christians couldn't float a plank on the inland sea. What did this do? It isolated Europe and impoverished Europe. So, you know the business of the Barbary pirates? You know the business of the Somali pirates? Same. It is Sunnah. It is Sunnah, the way of Muhammad. There's a famous hadith which is repeated endlessly in which Muhammad awakes in a dream and he sees his jihadists sailing the inland sea. Islam always practices, where possible, economic warfare. Muhammad attacked caravans. What was attacked in New York? Ooh, Trade Center. This, economic warfare. I am an admirer of Islamic civilizational war methods. They're superior to everyone else's thinking in war. They use everything for war. Everything, including the womb. This was
Yep,
an economic
very
jihad.
true.
There
And right now, they're engaging in civilizational jihad, which I've spoken about in other live streams.
were three, you've heard of the Dark Ages? Well, there were three Dark Ages. One in Europe, one in Turkey, one in North Africa. You weren't told that, were you? Wonder why. Here we see some ruins. What's the importance of these ruins? Well, they're up and standing. What happened to all the ruins in Rome? Well, the people who were still living there used them as quarries. They harvested them. The Colosseum remained simply because it was so big. What does this tell us here? If all this stone is still stacked up, there were no people. The invasion of North Africa was so brutal and so fast that it actually left in the harbor a layer of silt. Here's how that happened. North Africa used to be farmland, irrigated farmland. The Romans, clever men that they were, put along the roads in North Africa olive trees for shade and for keeping the road fixed for free. Because what would happen is you would bid on buying a lease on a stretch of Roman road in North Africa. You maintain the olive trees and the road, and you got to keep the olives. So the Romans got money from selling the lease, and then they got the road fixed for free, and somebody has a business making money. Is this clever or what? That all ended because the invading Arabs were not farmers, they were herdsmen. The people there were Christian, and so therefore, when the average Arab family would own 50 goats. They put their goats out into the fields of Christians, and the Christians as dhimmis had no right to protest. Between death and the erosion of the crops, there was this produced a layer of silt in the harbors. So that's how brutal, hard, and fast came about this collapse of economy in North Africa. What was left for a European economy? Furs, lumber, swords, and slaves. We're now really getting to one of the points where we don't want to know this history. Anybody here all real proud about how some of your ancestors were taken off a coast in Italy and then put into a harem in North Africa? And now you have children from that who are distant relations? You see, you may have distant relations in the Arab world you don't know about because 1 million Christians were sold into slavery. And by the way, the Venetians helped to do that. And another embarrassing piece of news is this. The Jews were very big in the trans-Mediterranean slave trade. Nobody comes out of this looking good. No one looks good. Are you also beginning to see, like, I don't think I want to know any more about this history at all? Okay? Are you catching on here? All right. Now, the other thing we're told that's so bad about Christianity and so pitiful about those poor Muslims are the Crusades. Who's ever heard this? Well, the Crusades, oh, that's so embarrassing. Gosh, you know, we got out of Europe, we went over there and invaded the Arab lands, and then we killed them and hurt them, and like, oh, I've heard preachers wallow in pity about how drastically bad the Crusades were. All right, first off, Islam, remember, destroyed 30,000.
So what he just said, that's like what people are told, but it's literally the opposite. The Crusades were a response to Islamic invasion of European and Christian countries.
Churches. The Jews and Christians were dhimmis. There was infinite number of brutality against Christians. Christians were fleeing the Middle East, and the Byzantine Emperor appealed to the Pope, help us, please. Now, this was a big thing to do because the Byzantine emperor and the Pope did not get along at all. But these were desperate people. And what did the Pope look out and see? This is the world that he saw in 1100, the time of the First Crusade. Well, let's see, this much of Spain is Muslim, and we're getting our behind kicked on a regular basis. Oh, well, this Christianity's gone. Oops, this Christianity's gone. And look at all the battles in the non-Christian, in the areas that are still Christian. Do you see the geopolitical problem that the Pope was facing here? This was not just some, we'll saddle up, get on our horses, and go steal from them Arabs, which is what you're told. This is the political picture. But now then, let's do this. Let's look at a battle map for the Crusades. Let's be fair. I showed you the jihad map. Now here comes the Crusade battle map.
Nothing, absolutely nothing compared to the jihad map.
We're almost done. That's it. Now we're told that the Crusades are the moral equivalent of jihad, and therefore we need to be ashamed and whine and cry. All right, the Crusades were defensive, lasted 300 years, and the last one was over 800 years ago.
Yeah, I just want to point out, white people, stop letting non-white people guilt you into thinking your history is bad or your identity is bad, because it's literally being used against you. And, everyone is making you feel white guilt or whatever. You guys shouldn't be apologizing for the Crusades. The Crusades are literally why Europe remained Christian. So yeah, no, don't apologize for that. And, people like to talk about the transatlantic slave trade, but the Arab Muslim slave trade was even worse. So yeah, this is why history is important, and this is why knowledge is power, so that when people try to guilt you about your history, you can just clap back and respond with factual historical information. But yeah, the Crusades were not a bad thing. The Crusades were a response to Islamic colonization.
All the jihad was offensive, lasted 1,400 years, and it's happening right now. In all probability, some Christian is being slaughtered in Nigeria today. Now, is this moral equivalence? Why won't they teach this in a church school? So the ministers will stop, oh, the Crusades were just so terrible. No, the Crusades were one of the few times the church put steel in its spine. And then we apologize for it. Now then, let's go to the great benefits of Islam. We're told about two different golden ages. We're told about Andalus, the wonderful empire in Spain, in which there was multicultural peace, and Jew and Christian and Muslim all lived together in a golden age in Europe. You ever heard that? Well, here we go. This is the battle map of the Golden Age in Andalus. Now, while all this is going on, orders for slaves are being filled. The first slave order out of Spain was the Caliph ordered up 3,000 blonde virgins. They were shipped out of Spain. Battles are going on in which Christian knights die, but notice something here. The Christians won't quit fighting. This is going to take 700 years, and there's going to be nearly 150 battles fought.
Where was this caliph located?
There was more than one caliph at the time. This was a caliph in North Africa.
Okay.
I mean, what sort of sick and mentally deprived person do you have to be where, you feel like you have the God-given right to say that you want 3,000 blonde virgins? It's just so depraved and so misogynistic.
Okay. Now then, looking at this, do you understand why when Isabel and Ferdinand were finally in full power, they told every Muslim in Spain to get out of here? They drove everyone out. Okay, my question for you is this. Was Andalus a multicultural golden age or a reign of terror? I claim it
Reign
was
of
a reign
terror.
of terror, and it was not a
Reign of
golden
terror.
age at all. And yes, there were a few people who had it good. The elites had it good. There were some rich Jews and rich Christians that had it good. Also, otherwise there was constant war, slavery, and Christians had to wear robes so you could tell a Christian from a block away. And a Christian couldn't carry a sword, and they paid special taxes. And then we come to the question, why are we told this story? Now we have the Baghdad Golden Age. Here we go. This is all the battles that are fought during the period of the Golden Age in Baghdad. Now, not only are they as busy as they can be killing Christians, but they're also busy establishing the Sharia doctrine. They're also busy establishing the Hadith doctrine. And they're also busy in doing things like slave trading. You know all those exotic photo pictures you've seen of the harem? They're sort of pre-Playboy sexy, beautiful women in gauzy outfits. All of those women were Christians. Less romantic sounding, isn't it? The other thing that's happening in Baghdad is this. A new philosophy is being generated in which there is no cause and no effect. This turns out to paralyze the mind. Okay, those were all the battles that were fought during the mythical Golden Age. Okay, during the Golden Age, Christians and Jews were dhimmis, Christians were sex slaves. Here's one that gets me. During this Baghdad Golden Age, they evolved a philosophy in which there were no laws of nature and there was no cause and effect. I'm a scientist. We work off of two laws, the law of contradiction, does the data contradict the data, and the law of cause and effect. I've just explained to you why, out of their Golden Age, why you don't find Muslims getting Nobel Prizes in science. You cannot be a scientist and not believe in cause and effect. You just can't. Won't work. Now then, the Christians did all of the vaunted translation of the Golden Age text, and get this. We're told that this was such a great peak of learning, they destroyed 90% of the books. And we're told that the remaining 10% they preserved is like, oh, this was the Golden Age. Oh, we live in eternal gratitude to the Muslims. If they had come along, we'd have had 100% of them.
They also, during the Muslim Arab conquest of Persia, they burned so many of our libraries and so many scrolls and books in an attempt to just completely erase and annihilate us. In fact, one of the reasons that we, Persians or Iranians, whatever you want to call us, one of the reasons that we are still able to know about our history is thanks to the Greek historians who wrote about us. And so, big shout out to all the Greeks and Romans here. Thank you for helping us Persians preserve our culture, because it's such an important way for us to, for Iranian historians to have been able to, put all the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out what happened. And without Greek and Roman historians, we wouldn't have been able to do that because many of our books were burned by the Arab Muslim colonizers as well.
Presented with a library in India, the largest library in the world was a Buddhist library in Nalanda. They came to him and reported the existence after they had conquered, and they said, what shall we do with the library? The order from the general was this. If it contains any information that is in the Quran, we already have it, burn it. And if it contains any information that is not in the Quran, it is false, burn it. The same was done with most all of the libraries.
Yep.
And why are we told this was some wonderful golden age that preserved knowledge for us? Ottoman Empire, 1683. The reason I have this up here, Islam in Europe. That's the world today. I've now explained to you how this world came about. It came about through relentless, brutal persecution of everyone who was not a Muslim. Now then, let's change to modern times. All of that work stops in 19 and 22. This works off a database of 19,000 jihad attacks since 9/11. There are things like this. I know the date, the country, the city, how many are killed, how many injured, and a description.
Wait, let me pause this and so database of 19,000 jihad attacks since September 11, 2001. Wow. And this is only up until, what is it, 2018? 2018, I believe. I think this is from 2018. Wow. Wait, when is this lecture from? Let me see. Oh, sorry, this lecture is from 2012. So this data is only from September 11, 2001 until 2012. Wow.
Now, when
So it's like 13 years outdated.
you present a guy like me with 19,000 pieces of data, I start asking questions, how do we make this make sense? So let's make it make sense. By the way, you did hear all about these 19,000 attacks in the Tennessean and the local newspaper, didn't you? You did hear about this. It was on the nightly news.
We've heard about Fort Hood.
Oh, the workplace incident. Oh yeah, I got that. All right. Anyway, moving along here. This, by the way, is where all these took place. I just think that's interesting. And you'll notice something. This is the Islamic world, and it all centers around it. But notice how much is happening in Europe. Okay. I take the data and I parse it and I divide it. I use Islamic doctrine to analyze this data. What does Islam insist on? Well, in my first lecture, I told you they're fixated on the kafir, right? So I use the kafir to analyze this data from an Islamic standpoint. See, I'm the ultimate multiculturalist.
Wait, someone in the YouTube comments said this is a hate lecture. I mean, facts don't care about your feelings. This is just basically repeating or sharing history. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why you're so blindly following a faith that murders and rapes and enslaves people. Because this is this is not even he's not even talking about religion. He's literally talking about history and battles and wars and demographics and things like that. So this has nothing to do with like a theological debate. So if you think this is a hate lecture or hate speech, you're an idiot.
No, really. I'm the only person you've ever met who analyzes Islam on the basis of Islam. Here we go. Here we have, in the last 10 years, the total number of attacks. In the green, we have Muslim on Muslim violence. You mean a Muslim will kill a Muslim? Really? They're doing it in Syria as we speak, right? Remember Iran, Iraq? Okay. Then we have the only one I care about. I mean, my motto here is...
Yeah, but the Iran-Iraq war wasn't because Muslims were fighting Muslims on the basis of religion. Iraq was trying to annex large parts of Iran where the oil was. And of course, the Iranians fought back. So, I mean, I don't know if I would count that as Muslim on Muslim violence in the sense of like, because they weren't fighting for religious reasons. I mean, that would be like saying World War II was Christian on Christian violence, even though it wasn't about religion, right? So, I mean, not the best example, but I understand what he's talking about. There's a lot of Muslim violence. Like when they're not like, murdering other people, they're murdering themselves. It happens all the time.
Sell weapons and intelligence to the loser. I'm very serious. You think I'm joking. I know. Okay, here's our story right here. Stays pretty level. That's interesting. By the way, there's hardly a day in which there's not a jihad attack. Modern jihad is relentless, just like classical. Oh, by the way, one of the things this curve proves right here, Islam is bad for Kafirs. Islam is bad for Muslims. Islam is bad for Muslim and non-Muslim. That's what this data shows us. You want to argue with that? Okay, modern jihad is relentless. But what did we see in the other battle map? It was relentless. There are two types of jihad, against the kafir and against Muslim. You see, every time they kill a Muslim, the reason in Syria they're killing other Muslims, they're not real Muslims. Okay? Now then, we've introduced, however, a new phenomena. The mom and pop non-state jihadi shop. Okay? All of those battles up to 1922 were out of the caliph. Okay? We now have non-state jihad. That is all that is different. Okay, jihad attacks per year. I just chose the top 4 nations. But this doesn't really give us what we want because Israel's teeny weeny and India's great big, so let's do this on per capita. Now then, Israel, I bet you were surprised about Thailand. You didn't know that Thailand was getting whacked on a regular basis, did you? And look, here's a Christian nation.
I didn't know that about I mean, these figures are from 2012, obviously, because the lecture is from 2012. But I had no idea that there was so much Islamic terrorism in Thailand of all countries. Okay, I'm gonna make a note of that. I'm gonna have to look into that. Give me one moment here. Okay. So I just want to make a note of this before I forget because I knew about India. I mean, I know about Bangladesh. I was not aware of the that the per capita for jihad attacks in Thailand was so high. That's news to me.
The Philippines ranks number 3.
The Philippines I know about. The Philippines I know because I have a lot of Filipino friends, and they have told me about what's been going on in the Philippines. Apparently, there's like branches of ISIS that are in the Philippines and operating there, and so there's definitely an Islamic terrorism problem in the Philippines. I think it might have gotten better recently, but I'm not sure. But I was not aware of Thailand. I thought it was more like Philippines and maybe like Indonesia and maybe parts of Malaysia.
India was Hindu. Oops, wait a minute. Do you know what I just told you? Jihad is against the Jew, the Buddhist, the Christian, and the Hindu. This is the data. Now you go to these dialogues, these multicultural smoozes they have, where the preacher and the rabbi and the imam show up. The preacher and the rabbi show up to tie, the Muslim shows up to win. And then what does the Muslim tell them? Oh, the Christians and the Jews, they're people of the book. Oh, we're brothers in the religion of Abraham with the Christian and the Jew. You know, we're practically the same. We're brothers in Abraham. How's that stuff work out? Well, here's one of your people of the book. Here's another people of the book. Turns out they'll kill a Jew, a Buddhist, a Christian, or a Hindu just as fast as they will another. So much for being brothers in the religion of Abraham. The data does not support the theory. Therefore, the theory is wrong. There is no brotherhood of Abraham except in the minds of people who occupy pulpits. The jihad is against the Jew, the Buddhist, the Christian.
I mean, given the fact that he's taking a very, like scientific, data-driven approach, he's not wrong, right? Like everything he's saying, he's backing up with numbers, with figures. Yeah, like he's taking a very, very scientific approach to everything that he's talking about.
The Hindu and the secularists, by the way. The secularists are the worst of all. Well, maybe worse than the Hindu. It gets hard to know, I mean, really. It's against all kafirs. That's who the jihad is against. The religion of peace. Here we go. 548 battles, 19,000 jihad attacks. In 12 decades and 1,400 years that are jihad-free. Therefore, Islam is 91% violence and 9% peace. So George Bush was 9% right when he declared religion of peace. Constant violence is why? There's a doctrine. The doctrine of jihad is found in the Sirah, the Quran, and the Hadith. We've already been over this. They don't like kafirs. We have a whole doctrine of jihad within the text. Islam was only successful through jihad. Therefore, we have a doctrine which produces jihad and it produces this effect of the collapse of civilizations. Here you go, Tears of Jihad. 270 million dead over 1,400 years. Read them and weep, read them and weep. The doctrine drives history. History shows the true nature of political Islam. Political Islam is the enemy of all Kafir nations. There's an intellectual history. In 1,400 years, I've read a lot of old documents. They never talk about the Muslim. They talk about the Arab, the Turk, the Moor, Al-Qaeda, Asian, and it's always been by specialists. And today, all the established specialists are apologists for Islam. Why was the Quran code not cracked recently? How come we don't teach Muhammad? And why is the Golden Age propaganda taught? Why do we remain ignorant and keep suffering? I maintain there's a reason for this. I maintain that this constant brutality over the centuries has produced in the Western mind the equivalent of the abused dog, the beaten wife, and the raped child. We do not think correctly. Everybody's seen the beaten dog that when you approach it, that is the Western mind. We deny the attacks. How much jihad is ever reported? The churches will not even admit that a Christian suffers anywhere. Fear. Muhammad used fear. Any public critic of Islam has a certain fear element there.
Jane, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate that, and I hope you are enjoying this evening's live stream. Thanks for being here.
Guilt. Oh, we haven't treated Islam right. If we treated him better, everything would be good. We don't teach the history. We humiliated. Who here is going to go home and brag about how your ancestors were slaves, how your history was annihilated, and that all we teach is the lie of the Golden Age? Have you not noticed since 9/11 how bitter and angry politics has gotten? The reason is we're not allowed to get angry at the enemy, so we get cranky with each other. We're powerless. Anybody want to debate about this? The abuser. Muslims will not admit they sold a single slave or ever killed a person. They're arrogant and self-confident. Islam is perfect. Word Islam means submit. They expect submission out of us, and they get it. Islam is the victim. After 9/11, I heard this. The real victims of 9/11 were the Muslims. You've heard that anywhere? After 1,400 years of jihad, brutality, enslavement, theft, deception, rape, annihilation, and insults, the Kafir mind has become identical to that of an abused victim.
I mean, yes and no, because there are a lot of groups that are fighting back. Iranians, for one thing. You guys don't want to know what Iranians say in Farsi about, their thoughts on all of this. If you think I'm Islamophobic, I wouldn't even match up to the pinky finger of, your average Iranian who has been exposed to an Islamic dictatorship that has turned the country into a 7th century Islamic hellhole. So there are many of us who do speak out, but again, our voices are silenced, and we're labeled as Islamophobic just for speaking out against the crimes that have been committed against us.
Our only solution is to face our history and welcome it and embrace it. This is exactly the way we will heal our nation, is the way we heal a person who's been brutalized. You have to go back to the original event. And this is why we are afraid. Thank you.
Wow. That was so good, guys. That was so good. I actually found this video on YouTube. So if you guys are interested in watching this on your own, so if you just search for Bill Warner, Why We Are Afraid, a 1,400-Year Secret, Dr. Bill Warner. This is on his YouTube channel. Again, this was posted back in 2012, and it only has 971 views. So, wow. I actually just subscribed to his channel. He hasn't really uploaded much here, only 3 videos. There's this one too. It's called A Rational Study of Radical Islam. If you if you guys are interested, I could play this one as well. It's about 23 minutes long. I don't know if it's basically the same video that's kind of maybe shortened, or if it's a completely different video. It looks like the same background. So, oh, he has an online website. Okay, let me see if I can find his website. Oh my gosh! Sorry, I yelled. He's on X, guys. He's on X. He's on X. Okay, I'm following him right now. Wow. Okay. Our team is continuously growing. We're excited. You know what, guys? I have never been more excited to find someone on X right now. Like, I just gave him a follow. I can't believe he only has 36,000 followers. I'm going to see, like, I'm definitely going to follow up to him, or follow up with him and see if he's even interested in joining me for one of my YouTube live streams, for like my regular daily show here. But I mean, yeah, I know I prefer saying Twitter as well, but X is X. So, okay. Oh, wow. I wonder what he's saying here. All right, guys. So why don't we do, okay, let's do a little bit of internet snooping together, and let's see what we can find on Dr. Warner, because he's fantastic. Like, oh my gosh, that lecture he gave back in 2012, phenomenal. Like, everyone needs to watch that lecture. I cannot believe that the video, okay, so now the video has 976 views, but I cannot believe that. All right, so let's do a little bit of internet snooping. Let's see what we can find on him, or if we can find any new videos here. Okay, let me just make a note here before I forget, though, because I just like to keep track of my thoughts so I don't forget. Invite. Like, literally, my new hero. This man does not get the credit that he deserves. And a big shout out to The Major. Thank you so much for recommending that documentary or that video. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And some of the things I knew, but a lot of the things I actually did not know, especially when it comes to the the freedom of the seas, for example, and how that was impacted. So yeah. Dilshad, thank you so much for the super sticker. Appreciate that. I hope you're enjoying the live stream. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. And you're also welcome to become a channel member if you like. I'm starting to do members only live streams as well. But thank you for the super sticker. Really appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying the show. All right. Okay, let's do a little bit of snooping, because that video was only about an hour long. So I do have a little bit of time. I can stick around. So yeah, let's do some snooping together, so we can find on Dr. Bill Warner. And he's probably gonna wonder. I mean, if he checks his social media analytics or anything like that, he might be very confused and wonder why all of a sudden his videos are getting high views or being spread around. So anyways, here we go. Let's see what he has to say here.
For over 20 years, I traveled around the world and the United States teaching people about the subject of political Islam. I wrote over a dozen books. I was a public figure, but I can no longer be a public figure due to the nature of my health. To replace my work, I've created an organization called Center for the Study of Political Islam International. They'll continue to add information to the channels that I've created, so the material will be fresh. We'll be able to defeat political Islam now because we have something that's never been had for 1,400 years, knowledge. We've not had this before. So now that we have knowledge about political Islam in a way that's easy for people to understand, and using this knowledge, we can save our civilization.
I encourage you to continue to learn and to educate others. Thank you.
Oh no, that actually kind of makes me sad. Oh no. I mean, I just checked his Wikipedia. He's 84 years old. So I mean, yeah, people get old, I guess, but oh, I hope his health is okay. All right. Let's see what else we can find. Team is continuously growing. We're excited to invite new volunteers to join us. Is there political, let's see. Ooh, jihad isn't only a violent struggle, it's also a financial one. Very true. That's what else we can find here. Huh. Okay, so, oh, interesting. So they have a video here, but I guess it's not him, right? It's someone else that's doing it. Speaking about Christianity. Okay. Oh. Interesting. All right, I'm definitely gonna have to look at his videos and see what I can find here. Do you want me to play, like, he only has 3 videos on his YouTube channel. So I mean, it seems like he started uploading things 12 years ago, and then I guess he kind of gave up or moved on to a different kind of venture here. So okay, why don't I play this one? So Bill Warner interview with 9/11 hard hat Andy Sullivan.
Andy Sullivan, Blue Collar Corner. I'm here at the One Nation Under God rally, and I'm here with Professor Bill Warner. And Bill Warner is a professor, it seems like, in the study of Islam. Am I correct?
Oh, no, I was a professor in physics, mathematics, and engineering.
Wow. So he wasn't even like a professor of like critical studies or anything like that. The guy's literally a physicist. He's literally a scientist. And that's why, oh my gosh. So remember when I was speaking, I commented earlier in his other video, and I said he's taking a very scientific approach to this, right? Like he's basically providing facts, numbers, and then a conclusion based on the data. So his presentation was incredibly data driven. And he literally just said the guy's basically a physicist, right? Like, oh my gosh. So he's taking a very, very scientific approach to Islamic terrorism and jihad. Wow. No, you know what? No wonder his presentation there was very, very easy to follow, because when you take a scientific approach, it's very easy to explain something. Whereas when you're more in the humanities or whatever, sometimes it's convoluted and you're all over the place, right? So he just took a very like direct approach. He had facts, he had numbers, he had figures, and then he came up with a conclusion. I had no idea. The guy's like literally a scientist.
Oh, no, I was a professor in physics, mathematics, and engineering.
Wow. Okay. I stand corrected. When I heard you speak, you said some incredibly revealing things. These are a lot of things that people out there do not have a clue about Islam. Now, what do you think is the biggest misconception of Islam?
That it is a religion, and that it's difficult to understand. It's actually an entire system of civilization. It contains a legal code. Of course, it is a religion. I'm not denying that part. But it's interesting that 64% of the Quran is not about how to be a Muslim, but about the kafir. That's you and me. So that gives.
See, like only a mathematician or like a scientist would actually come up with a figure like that. Like I did not know that. I did not know that 64% of the Quran deals with, you know, non-Muslims and kafirs and all that stuff, right? I know that like it's spoken about in the Quran, but I didn't have the percentage. That's a very interesting figure. So 64% of the Quran deals with the infidels and the kafirs.
It gives you
What is kafir? Just other than Muslim?
it's a kafir is anyone who does not believe that Muhammad is the prophet of Allah.
Okay.
So,
So basically, demis.
well, now a dhimmi, I'm a kafir, but I'm not a dhimmi. A dhimmi is a kafir who has decided to submit to Islam by going along, by not posing problems.
And just being tolerated by the people of Islam.
Yes, this comes from I'll give you a real brief historical snippet of what a dhimmi is. A dhimmi was created by Muhammad as a legal status for someone who had been conquered by Islam, but they had to live in a subjugated status. They had to pay a special tax, and they had to live under Sharia law. They could be a Christian or a Jew, but only in the privacy of their heart or the church. So it stripped away all civilization. So anyway, that's who a dhimmi is, someone who lives under Sharia and either by force or by choice. But I'm a kafir. I don't.
Sounds like a miserable existence, if you ask me.
Yes, it is, to be subjugated.
As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this, Professor, but in the health bill, the Obamacare health bill, there is a clause about the demitude clause, whereby Muslims aren't obligated to pay that mandated insurance.
That's right. What we've decided is that in that case is that Muslims do not have to obey our constitutional law. Instead, they can live under Sharia law, which means that to that degree, the United States has submitted to Islam.
Now, I hear phrases like creeping Sharia or stealth jihad. I contend these are the exact things. This is the other side of the war on terror, and this is the side that's taking place right here, right amongst where we live.
There's the jihad of fire, war. That's easy to deal with.
Violent jihad.
Violent jihad. That I don't want to say it can be dealt with. We have professionals who can do that kind of work. The kind of work that is most difficult is the jihad that we're seeing, in which, well, you just mentioned the health care bill. Well, the other is, have you ever noticed how many people are afraid to speak out about the issue of Islam, say at work, or even with other members of their family? In all of these ways, we're subjugating ourselves and saying, you know, Islam does not get a fair day of criticism. Instead, we give them a pass. We give them a walk.
Well, we're very tepid when it comes to anything concerning Islam, especially our media and our liberals. We very rarely take them to task on anything.
I'm trying to think, and I don't remember recently in the media where they've taken Islam to task or at all.
Actually, one person, and it was a screaming liberal, Bill Maher, actually had the Minnesota guy, Keith Ellison, and he actually said that the Quran was just a book of hate.
No. You know, there are little things like that, but they're blips.
Well, I think because he's a liberal, he didn't get lambasted by the media for it.
So, but it is true that in the media, and I castigate them a lot because I don't say they have to take my side, the side of the kafir, but they always take the side of Islam. I mean, it's just consistent. And they don't even the media does not want an honest dialogue on this issue. They want to just propagandize it.
Well, my last and final question, I want to thank you for talking with us. Why do you think Islam and these very leftist liberal groups have such a kinship? I mean, because being liberal, you figure they're for gay marriage, they're very liberal, right to life and for abortion. These are issues that you'd figure the liberal would kind of be against anything Sharia-like or having to do with Islamic law.
I've thought a lot about this, and I think there are a lot of things that go into it. Islam is very socialistic in its structure. That is, the person is not important. What's important is the ummah, the entire body of Islam. And so that's a rather socialist concept if you think about it. Also, Islam wants a strong central force government, which socialists also want as well. But
They're also both anti-imperialist in nature.
That's a very good point.
the point you're bringing up here is, I have been dealing with the issue of Islam and liberals for 10 years. Before 9/11, I have
10 years. You know what? Kind of an amateur there. Speak to Iranians. We've been dealing with the issue of, Islam and the progressive left for decades, since the 1950s for sure. The unholy alliance between the red and the black is actually what turned Iran into a 7th century Islamic hellhole back in 1979. The Islamists wouldn't have been able to take over our country, take our country hostage, if they hadn't had support from the progressive left.
I have, by the way, perfect progressive credentials if I want to drag them out. And before 9/11, most of my friends were songwriters, musicians, novelists, the artsy type.
The heart of liberaldom.
The heart of liberaldom. Now, what has happened since 9/11 is I have persuaded every one of them to change their opinion on the subject of Islam. Now, I haven't changed their opinions on anything else. They still want the next president to be a transgendered illegal alien that has AIDS. But
Well, we're getting there.
but they do not like Islam because there is nothing in Islam that supports a single liberal principle. Not one. And so once I've started,
Yet they will line up to fight right behind them.
not the liberals who've interacted with me for long enough, they
I'm
realize,
talking about us lunatics up in New York.
oh, well, now there, I used to live in Manhattan, by the way. But anyway, no, what I've demonstrated, I tell you what, we're opening up a new website called the Bulletin of the Oppression of Women, because it's one of the newsletters I put out. Where this website is going to be administered by a progressive who has reached the conclusion that, one, the liberals are wrong on the subject of Islam, and that there's not a single liberal principle that Islam supports. And what he told me was, he said, Bill, the best way to hook the liberals is with the oppression of women. You've already got a newsletter that deals with that. And he said, let's make it a social site. And I went, I tell you what, why don't you run it and I'll pay for the website? And he says, you have a deal. So we're going to have a website on women's issues that is being moderated by a self-described progressive, because he sees that progressives don't want women treated like Sharia law wants to treat them either.
Absolutely.
So we're making some ground here.
All right, give us that website again, sir.
Well, my website is politicalislam.com. The website that's coming up is the Bulletin of the Oppression of Women.
Okay, folks.
Guys, I have something even better. So this was his old YouTube channel, okay? So Bill Warner, only 3 videos, 63 subscribers. I found his updated YouTube channel, and I'm just about to share it with you guys. So it's on YouTube, and it's CSPII. There's about 5.93 subscribers, 63 videos. As you can see, like, I literally just subscribed, and there's a whole bunch of playlists here as well. And there's a whole playlist called Dr. Bill Warner with 22 videos. So, of course, we're not going to watch all 22 videos tonight. I'm not going to put you through that. But now that I've found this very, very interesting treasure, like, you know what? I feel like I went on like a treasure hunt, and now we found the treasure chest and we've opened it up and it's like filled with gold. So now I have a lot of new content, and as much as I just kind of want to binge watch all of these videos, I'm not going to do that because I want to share it with you guys as well. And so I'm not gonna go through it all, but I don't know. Maybe I'll go through one. What do you guys think? Should we watch like a short video? Because, like, I don't want to go through the long ones, but all right, let's watch one. Let's watch one, and then I'll call it a night. Let's see what he has to say here. So this video is from, where's the description? I don't know what the description is here. If I close a playlist. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this video is from 8 years ago. All right, we'll just watch this one short one, and then I'll end the live stream because I do have to get some sleep as well.
If you're keeping up with the news at all, you know there is a massive migration happening from the Islamic world into Europe and the United States, for that matter, through the refugee program. Now, we usually see migration being driven by politics and poverty, but there's another driver here, which is the doctrine of jihad in Islam. How does this work? Well, let's start with timekeeping and the calendar.
So if you've seen my other videos and my other live streams, I've actually shared that video by Bridget Gabriel, where she speaks about the Muslim Brotherhood's plan to take over Western societies through mass migration, and the Muslim Brotherhood calls it civilizational jihad. So what he is saying here, it's not a new concept. It's not even something that he's made up. Like the Muslim Brotherhood themselves have admitted, as part of their 100-year plan to take over the West, is to do it through mass migration, which they call civilizational jihad.
In Islam, they don't use the same calendar we do. They use when they mark a year, it has AH after it, in the year of the Hijrah, migration. And why do they do this? Well, you see, it's very simple. You would think that Islamic calendar would start with the birth of Muhammad or the date of the revelation of the Quran, but no. Instead, the Islamic calendar starts with what brought it success, migration. You see, Muhammad preached the religion of Islam for 13 years in Mecca and persuaded 150 Arabs to become Muslim. Not a very high success rate. When he was driven out of Mecca and went to Medina, he became a jihadist and a warlord, and this brought him enormous success. After 10 years of being in Medina, practicing the art of jihad, he was ruler of all of Arabia, and every Arab in Arabia was a Muslim. You see, it was migration which led to the success of Islam. And therefore, that's the reason the calendar is keyed to migration, because that's what brought it success. Now, in the past, Muslims didn't migrate much. They stayed in Islamic lands. But today, through the pressure of population growth and poverty, they're leaving, and of course, war. We help to destabilize the governments, and so therefore they're coming to those who actually destabilized their governments. It used to be that Muslims were supposed to stay in Islamic lands because that's where they could fully practice their Islam, where the Sharia ruled. But now then they're coming to America, and a new twist has been put on the migration doctrine. You can come to the land of the kafir, the non-Muslim, but you must, as much as possible, live in Muslim enclaves and obey as much of the Sharia as possible. Now, in the past, there was one argument that Muslims should not take any part of the Jahiliyyah doctrine, ignorant doctrine of the kafir, and to stay totally outside, to build a wall around the ghetto. But the Muslim Brotherhood has advocated a new argument. No, the immigrants are to start taking over.
Okay, so he just casually dropped in the Muslim Brotherhood. Did you catch that? Right? So he says the Muslim Brotherhood has advocated a new argument. And guys, keep in mind, both Texas and now Florida have designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. There are also many Middle Eastern countries who've designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. That includes United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and I believe Bahrain as well. So seems like America is slowly starting to wake up to the threat of the Muslim Brotherhood. But I'm glad that he's actually speaking about this now. So guys, pay attention to this part, because what he's saying here is not a conspiracy theory. It's literally the truth.
No, the immigrants are to start taking over the process of politics.
Oh, he said that 8 years ago. The immigrants are to start taking over the process of politics. And 8 years later, what are we stuck with? Well, we're stuck with an $8 billion Somali fraud that was, somehow involving Ilhan Omar in one way or another. And then, of course, you have New Yorkistan and Zohran Mamdani. So, yeah, this guy knew exactly what he was talking about 8 years ago, and no one listened to him. No one paid attention.
Taking over the process of politics, stay in enclaves as much as they can, and then enter into politics.
Stay in enclaves. Guys, does that sound familiar? Does it make you, does that remind you of anything? Minnesota?
Where they start to influence the schools, laws, civil rights laws, halal food, and other such things. What they're doing here is practicing the jihad of the dollars and the jihad of the pen and the jihad of speech. That is, they're persuading Americans that, Islam is just the best thing of all.
And isn't it interesting how you now have American influencers who are going around and talking about how amazing Sharia law is, right? I mean, Tucker Carlson going around and talking about, oh, Sharia law is great, right? I mean, everything that you're seeing happening right now, Dr. Warner basically was speaking about 8 years ago. And I don't understand how this video only has like 2.9 thousand views. Like, everyone needs to see this video.
So they're quite political in their arguments and their presence in front of our legislatures. Let me point out this something so that it'll be clear to you. There are many, many Buddhist immigrants who've come to America. What was the last time you saw a rally where they were protesting for Buddhist rights? What was the last time the Buddhists had advocates or lobbyists in the legislature? They don't at all. You see, all of this, always the pressure we're having on our civil rights and all other aspects of how to live in America from the Muslims, this is all part of jihad of the pen and jihad of speech and jihad of money. Jihad of money, as an example, is setting up centers within universities which strictly mouth the position of the Sharia. Now, the part of life that they cannot lead as a pure Muslim in America or Europe is covered by a principle in Sharia law. The necessity overcomes obligation. If you're supposed to do something as a Muslim, but you cannot because you're living in a Kafir land, then it is okay, because the necessity of living is more important than a Sharia rule. So remember this as well. Under jihad, any rule of the Sharia can be broken. So what we think of as politics and poverty has a new driver in American, and that is the politics of jihad, migration as jihad. We're going to see a lot more of it. What are we going to do? Do we want to sustain our civilization? Then how are we going to deal with this problem? And why do we keep bringing in more and more of it? Think about all this. Thank you.
Very well said. Very well said. Wow. This has been very informative for me. I've certainly learned a lot of new things. I'm still flabbergasted by the fact that the guy is literally he's a physicist, he's an engineer, he's a scientist, and everything he's talking about is like he's treating it like a math equation, right? And he's just like, evidence, facts, figures, conclusion. Wow, very, very informative. I'm definitely going to have to look him up. I'm going to try to reach out to him, see if he's interested, and if based on his health as well, if he's able to join me for a talk. But yeah, like he doesn't really post anymore on X, but he still has his X account there. I just followed him. Make sure you're giving him a follow. Here's his X account again for those who use X. It's just at political. Oh my gosh, he even took the name at political Islam. There you go. He's been around since 2011, but only has 36,000 followers. Wow. And then of course, this is the YouTube channel. I'll pull this up as well. CSPII. This is, I guess, the more updated one. However, if you're interested in revisiting the main video that we saw today, I found that one on his old channel, the one that only has 63 subscribers. And if you just do it like a YouTube search, you'll be able to find it. So, Why We Are Afraid: A 1400-Year Secret by Dr. Bill Warner. Highly recommended. I encourage everyone to go and watch that. It is just like this guy is a wealth of knowledge. So there you go. Well, thank you everyone for joining me for this evening's live stream. Big shout out to the Major for suggesting this video. I'm glad I watched it. For those of you who are channel members, I'll be putting up a post in the members only message board asking for your recommendations and suggestions on what to watch tomorrow night and in future evenings. I still do have my whole list of documentaries about Iran, which I will be revisiting as well. But I am going to mix things up a little bit. And yeah, if you're interested in getting involved and providing your feedback, you're more than welcome to become a paid member of my YouTube channel. Memberships are growing, and we are going to start seeing more activity on the members only side as well. Thank you everyone for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, Payande Iran, Javid Shah. We'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.